Hello, it's me again, and we're going to go through some more of these really entertaining variations on the cuboid theme. Some more White Eden products. This is, I think, called the Roadblock II. Probably get into the Roadblock I some other time. It's called that for reasons that we're going to talk about, and I really enjoy these puzzles as they're very interesting variations on the cuboid theme, using cuboid strategies but having to apply them to slightly bizarre and skewed scenarios. So we'll kind of navigate our way through this. Looking at this first, the process of scrambling it, I'll tell you, is almost as challenging as solving it, because if you're not careful, if you notice, let's say we wanted to scramble it, it appears that there's 7 layers here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So if we wanted to, say, scramble the middle layers here, we can move this here, turn this around like so, as we would normally do. And after doing that, we'll say maybe do a 180-degree turn, do a couple more turns around here, scrambling it like this, turn this back, and bring this here. You start to notice something. I'm scrambling the middle parts okay, but these remain unscrambled. So if I don't scramble this just right, you might find yourself solving a puzzle that's not quite as hard as it otherwise could be. And you may have found this to those that have this puzzle, that these layers seem to not quite be scrambled. So I'm actually going to go through how we can get a more fully functional, challenging scramble out of this. So, turn this again over here, and just kind of variate this around some more, bring it back here, turn it some more here, and that's all well and good. But how am I going to scramble these parts? Well, the best way to do that, I think, is we have to move it in a direction, because when I move it here, it's stuck. I can't really change that, so that's why I can't change the change the coordination between these. So what I'm going to need to do is I have to move it like this, but then I have to start moving these guys around. But I don't want to do that by changing this layer over here, because it's going to kind of offset things. So I'm actually going to borrow an algorithm of moving these around without changing anything over here. And that's going to be the final algorithm of the Rubik's Cube, where I'm putting the edges in place. So bear with me a second. What that's going to be is it's going to be that old U, R, U, I, L, I, U, R, I, U, I, L. Now what that did is it kept this over here and rotated these guys around. I'm just going to do it again. Now once I do that, again, this stayed the same, this rotated around. I'm going to then turn these back in the way I did at the very end of the Rubik's Cube strategy as well. So I'll hold it here and just kind of move these back in, knowing that if I do that, oops, I guess it doesn't matter. Knowing that if I do that, I'm not going to change anything else around. So I'm really isolating the movements here. And this is all for the purposes of scrambling. Otherwise, it's just going to be too easy. And what fun is that, I ask you? Okay, so what that did is it actually started to scramble these guys. So now I'm just going to move them around a little bit in conjunction with each other. Once I've done that, I'm just going to do the same thing. Kind of knocks it out a little bit, rotates it around a little bit, and let's see, do it again. Once I do that, I'm going to do exactly the same thing. All this effort, all this hoopla, all this fanfare just to get it properly scrambled. And again. Okay, so once I have the top part scrambled, I've got the middle scrambled, and I can continue to maybe do that a little further as well. Okay, once I have these guys scrambled pretty well, what I then want to do is scramble these guys too. So how am I going to do that? Well, I have to flip this down to here so that it's in conjunction with the same plane as these guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just roll 2 of these down with an algorithm that just rolls it down without messing anything else up. So that's in, let's get this one down too. So that's here as well. So let's just start moving these guys around a little bit. Scramble these here. Maybe do a little bit of this, like so. And if I think I've got that scrambled pretty well, now I'll move these guys down. And this one here too. Once I do that, just kind of move these guys all around, get it scrambled so that they're all messed up, and just do a bunch of random stuff here. Okay, now once I've done that, I can now just do a normal 3x3 Rubik's scramble. So like I say, as you can see, the process of scrambling it is almost as challenging as solving it, because you don't want to short sell yourself any of the challenge. Okay, so I think we're doing well. So as you can see now, this is a completely scrambled Roadblock II, which will bring out all of the challenges therein. So now it's just a question of solving. So the first perspective to get with this when solving this is we know it's a cuboid, but what kind of a cuboid are we really going to define this as? Is it like one of these guys? Sorry about that. Is it one of these guys, a 3x3x9? Well, it seemed like it. They had 7 layers here and then this sort of extended layer. Or is it a 3x3x7? And the answer is something like all of them. And I'll show you why. The first step that I'm going to do is we're going to once again try to get it to a quote cuboid form with some of these extended layers placed where they're supposed to be. And that's using 3x3 strategy. Well, there's a couple steps that we have to do as well, and that's getting in the edges, the white edges, so that they can be in conjunction with each other. So the first step that I'm going to do is I'm going to do the most straightforward side, which is the yellow side. And I'm going to go ahead and get the cross. Now just to review, we're going to define these extended layers. The corners, we're going to define the actual colors being what the end slice is. So this whole piece, I'm going to say, is going to be the yellow, green, and pink. And that's how it's going to function for me until I can get it back into its cuboid or cubic form. We're going to define the centers and the edges based upon the middle segment here. So if you just keep that in mind, it'll make things a little easier. It's going to get a little complicated, so just stick with me, but I think we can work through it. So let's try the yellow first. First step, getting our cross. Here's a yellow edge. I'm going to define this as the orange. So this over here is the orange center. I want to get these stripes so that they're parallel to each other. So let's just move this down. Move this across here so they're parallel. Now don't get confused in terms of what the center is. I'm pretending like there's 3 sets of 3. So it is kind of like a 3x3x9, but it's going to be the center of the middle set of 3. And then move this up. So there that is. Okay, here's a green. Let's move this to the green. It's already here, so move it up. This needs to go where the pink is, which is here, so move this down. Now I can't just move it here because it's perpendicular, so I've got to move this so that this becomes parallel to this. Actually, this is blue here. So we'll move the blue down, move this here so this is in conjunction with it, move it across. Here's our pink. Move it here, move it up. So this actually is our initial cross over here. The thing about this is it can kind of give you a little headache trying to keep track of everything. The next step that I'm going to do, now that I have these in place, I've kind of freed this area up. So before I do anything else, I'm going to go ahead and put all of my white edges. I'm going to formulate my internal consistency with the white edges. So I'm going to put my white edges in. The way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to start off over here, say this is the green and white stripe. So let's start putting things in conjunction. Here's a green and white over here. I could just move this over here. Now I'm going to find the other green and white. So I'm just putting edges together, and it's right here. It's up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the algorithm that puts this down to here, being sure that this is coordinated to where this will be on the top. So I can't move it down here because this will be on the bottom and it'll bump heads here. So let's move it here and move this to here. By the algorithm you should know so well, right over there. So now I'll put it here, and you can see that this is coordinated. What I'm going to do now is move this safely up here out of the way. Let's exchange it with this because I can see there's some whites I could use. Alright, so this is safely put up here. Let's hit this blue and white that we've got. So where's the other blue and white? Here it is. So this is kind of easy. Brings this over here. Now we're going to move this up. And it doesn't matter where. Okay, so I've got both of these in here. So what else do we got? How about the white and pink? So white and pink. Where's the other white and pink? Here's another white and pink over here. We find the other white and pink right over here. All too easy. And then just put this one up. Exchange it with this guy. Now, something that I'm not encountering as a challenge in this particular case, or not much anyway, is what if they're in sort of a parity situation? Like, let's say I turn this here. Okay, so here's a white, white and orange. So is this. This is kind of in a parity area, and here's this one on the bottom. So this is very familiar. This is opposite. One way that you can do it is just separate them out, move this up here somewhere, you know, say over here, and just move it back down. So you could do that. And then when you move it back down, it'll be here, put it here, then move this up, do a couple steps. You can do it that way. Or we can just do one of our parity algorithms to get out of this, which will work just fine. When we came across this with the big cubes, like the 4x4, 5x5, 6x6, we had an algorithm to flip this around, and it's exactly the same thing. It's what I call that Red Bull algorithm. And what that is, I'm going to define this as R, and this is L, and we'll just go through that exact same algorithm, which shouldn't be a problem. So it's going to be 2R, 2B, 2U, L, get it, Red Bull, and then we have 2U, RI, 2U, R, 2U, 2F, R, oops, 2F, LI, 2B, 2R, and there it is. So it's good to know that it works just fine, because in future White Eden cubes, we're going to see that we're going to be putting centers in exactly the same way. So we've got this in, so we can start moving things in as well. Now by doing that algorithm, we kind of messed up our crosshair a little bit, but that's okay, because my whole goal was to put this back in, which is going to make the rest of the solve a lot more straightforward. But let's put things back in. So we've got these in, and we've got the cross. Just be very sure that we understand that this is the cross. At this point, we have to start defining how we're layering this as a cuboid. Because it would appear that this has 7 layers, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, with a whopping big 7 layer. But it actually is going to behave more like a 3x3x9, as though this were 3 layers in one. That's the roadblock portion of this. This is actually 3 layers, so this is going to be our middle layer. This will be defined as our middle layer because it's the layer at which it won't borrow from other layers when you do 180-degree turns like this, when you do like a 2R. So if you notice this orange one over here, which is at this layer, if I do a 2R, it comes right back to here. So that's got to be defined as our center. I'm going to get back to that later on. But anyway, we then solve this side. Put these edges down here where they're supposed to be. These edges are defined based on the middle stripe. So this is actually going to be the green and pink middle. So let's line this up with a green and pink center, which is right here, green and pink. So move this down to here. This is a rehash of our 3x3x9 White Eden strategy, so this is correct. We've got this one here, orange and blue, which comes right here. So there actually is some pretty good consistency to the organization of this because it's an odd number one. God help us when we get even number ones. Anyway, green and orange right here. And there it is here. So what we have is we have our middles in place, which is going to be important because we're not going to get any parity issues. You know that you did it correct because you don't encounter any bizarre situations up here. We've got the L formation. You don't have 3 in and 1 out. If you did get that, you didn't put your centers in right, if you ever get that. So let's move all of these up. F, R, U, R, U, I, F, I. Here's our line. F, R, U, R, U, I, F, I. All right, and here's our cross. This is right, this is right, This is not, so okay, so this is actually correct. Green to green, pink to pink, blue to blue. All right, now we get the edges in. Are any here already? And this one is, and these are not. So, back. Step by step. So these are in by necessity. These must be in. All right. Okay. So now we have put this in Rubik's Cube style. So this is our 3x3 solve. This is actually where it needs to be with this in the center.